Hey everybody, and welcome to Indigo Sky Holistic. I'm Davina, an intuitive holistic therapist and Reiki healer. I am based here at Soul Wellness Hub in Sowerby Bridge in West Yorkshire. And today we're going to talk a little bit about self-responsibility, apparently. So I have just been doing a shamanic journey, which I don't actually do very often. I've done shamanic courses, shamanic journeys in courses that I've been on for both connecting to the seasons and for a womb healing process. And I love shamanic journeys. I find the whole process quite quite insightful, quite powerful. I'll say very, actually, not just quite, very powerful, insightful, and oftentimes quite moving. And I've just been on a journey to just explore some shadow stuff, I guess. For some wisdom and insight on stuff that might be holding me back from a few expansive processes and expansive stages that I'm at in my life right now, both with Indigo Sky Holistic, with the expansion and growth of support and services that I'm offering here. From September, I'll be taking this room on my own, which I've actually been sharing it for about a year, actually. And I'm taking the full responsibility on for the room, which obviously comes with the added exchange financially for full rent and the changes that brings. But obviously I also have more ability to use the room, more time to use the room, and I have to share it. I only don't have to tie my days down to specific days so that it fits in with the other therapist who we're sharing. And then obviously I've been running my group sessions for EFT, and they are growing and expanding, and ultimately I've been holding them here in this room when I hold them here at Soul, but I want to be able to rent a bigger space here to hold space for up to a dozen people to attend those. And then obviously the Zoom sessions, and Zoom comes with its own requirement to like make a financial payment to run, like to have Zoom. For anyone who doesn't know, like these are all expenses that are necessary to be able to be of the best support for the people that come to us as therapists, as healers, as coaches, as whatever it is that you do in the world that requires this sort of exchange. You know, if you're recording videos, if you're putting your wisdom out there in some way, a lot of these platforms actually require an energy exchange of a financial cost to run them and be hosted. You know, websites and platforms that host websites, and your domain name and everything, all is an energy exchange that's a necessary thing. Maybe it's not necessary. There's obviously a debate for that, isn't there? But when you are looking at a support network, when you are creating a support network, when you're looking at putting yourself out into the world in some way, there's currently, the way that the world works, a financial exchange necessary. And so I've just been on this shamanic journey to sort of see what's going on with me, to allow the necessary things to come into me so that I can take on these extra responsibilities, I guess. And wow, so the biggest answer I got when I was like, right, okay guys, I need to know like what's going on. Is there anything blocking me? Are there any like past stories, past lifetime ancestral wounds, energetically imprinted from my generational line, as opposed to just here now. And the very, very clear answer that I got, maybe not surprisingly, given all the clearing and all the changing and all the shifting that I've done, was that actually the responsibility is solely on my shoulders now. And it was a very like compassionate, caring, like don't feel like guilty or don't blame yourself when you feel like things are not quite growing the way that you want them to, but changes are required on a like individual internal basis for expansion and change to come out into the world. And self-responsibility is something that I talk about. I've wrote several posts, maybe even a couple of blog posts over the years about the need to be self-responsible for our actions, for what we do, for what we say, for how we think, and the choices that we make. That everything in our life is a choice. Everything that we think is a hardship is a choice. Like, we make these choices that have us in the situations that we're in. And this is not victim blaming, this is not shoving. Like, the one thing that came to me in the journey was like, don't feel like you have to feel ashamed or guilty for not being good enough. It's not a self-criticism, it's not a self-blame, it's not a worthiness or self-esteem issue. It's just that when we've lived our lives in, I guess it's survival mode, I guess it's fight or flight, flight or freeze response, when we've lived our lives in that way for a period of time, we can get very caught up on and in the past stories, the stories that are like, you know, you are like the small player in the big game. Like, you are the small, insignificant, trying to hide and trying to be safe and trying to keep small and trying to be in that place where you know you're safe and you know that something else is responsible for you. And the self-responsibility piece is really key to empowerment. It's really key to being like, okay, so I am responsible for the choices that I make. Even if I'm in a really difficult situation, I'm responsible for how I react to those. I had a conversation with my 13-year-old daughter today about like famous people, maybe not like world famous people, but she's into like YouTube content creators, and then when there's situations for them that come up that end up being like, you know, blown out of proportion, or, you know, all over Twitter in the like small little collective group that they're in, like the overwhelming feeling that like the world is going to crumble is like it's an external force. It's not on the shoulders of us individually. Like, then there's stories from other people, there's stories from the perspective of our past experiences, or from generational stories, like family stories. And this piece on self-responsibility is, we can only control ourselves right now in this moment, and we can only control how we show up. And if we keep repeating the habits and practices of our like past selves, then of course things are going to stay the same. Nothing I've definitely wrote this in a post before. Nothing changes if you don't change. Nothing changes if I don't change. This was the message that clearly came through, that like, to be the therapist who's here in a room 4 days, 5 days a week. 4 days. No one's doing a 5-day week in my in my livelihood. No, 4 days. Like, I mean, whenever one-to-one client, and whenever like my high-level one-to-one clients, of course they get access to me on a like more than 4-day basis, but to actually come into the room and be here and be seeing clients in this space is a 4 days out of every 7. But obviously, you know, that's because I have the space to have these my higher level clients and my family and my like the home education side of our family life that takes me seven days. Like, I am available for those my high-end one-to-one clients and my family 7 days. Like, that's without a doubt 7 out of 7 days there. That's what I'm there for. So to be that therapist, that healer, that mentor, to be that mum, I have to become that mum. This is like the whole like act as if piece, the embodying your next level self piece. It's all about actually truly looking at, well, what does she do on a moment-to-moment basis? And I wrote this out for a membership that I'm part of. I wrote like really small details on what I do on a day-to-day, minute-to-minute basis. Like, not just, you know, well, okay, like on the days when I'm coming here, I'll get up and I'll get ready, and then I'll come in and then I see clients for like 4, 5, 6 hours, and then I'll like jump in a taxi, because that's what my next level of self does. She jumps in a taxi, she doesn't jump in the train. Actually, my next level of self does go on the train, but that's a whole other story. Like, you know, and then I go home and I'll grab us a takeaway on the way home to my big house with a big garden, and we'll sit on the veranda, they think in this country. We'll sit on the decking and we'll look out at the, like, that's like really basic. It's not like minute to minute, what do I do? And also the other thing that it doesn't count for is some of the stuff that's been going on for me internally this week, which is a grief process as I move through this time of like remembering letting go of my mum, remembering her passing on from her life. Here I have to allow my body its time, my energy field its time to process that, and actually be present with some of those old stories, and be present with some of those, like, well, how do I process that time? How do I show up in that time? And actually, like, there's nothing wrong with spending some time chilling out, watching videos, being more in a space of sadness and grief and overwhelm, and like to actually think that when we're healed, or when we have stepped into a new version of ourselves, that we won't have crises, and that we won't have overwhelming situations, and that we won't have life throw us like 3 different curveballs all at the same time, where we're just like, whoa, I can't take anymore. It's like, it's naive to think that we're not going to have situations that present us with challenges. So when we take self-responsibility for showing up in a new energy, we empower ourselves to be more of that new energy more consistently, more of the time. So I can like lie here wallowing in self-pity on the therapy room floor, which, believe me, I was doing a little bit of, like feeling like nothing I ever do is going to be good enough, like I'm never going to succeed. I can actually sit in that feeling for a little bit, because I'm feeling a bit sad. because I've found the time of year quite emotional is not really the right word, because I'm not like, I don't get caught up in the emotion of it. It's just a case of I feel low energetically in a, I guess, a more spiritual and physical and mental way. And I don't remember why until it like clicks, like, oh, it's the start of July. Oh yeah, okay. I'm grieving. I'm allowing that to just process through me. And then because my default has been, right, well, you know, nothing is ever going to go right for me. It does bring up the stories of where my mum fits into my healing journey, like I spoke about, I think it was yesterday. And like, there's nothing wrong with me just taking some days to feel that way. And like, even when everything is much more expansive, like, to be able to feel that way and still be expansive is very powerful. Like, it's very empowering to myself, and then to those who come to me for their own support through their own journey of grief, or letting go of something, or moving on from something, or learning more about who they really are. Because I can allow myself to do this and take responsibility for myself and my own feelings and emotions and processing of stuff, rather than, you know, continue to blame it on my mum, or blame it on my dad, or blame it on the religion I was brought up in, or blame it on the government. It's like, to be able to go, right, this is my part and my role in this now, is supportive and empowering to those who then come to me. And I'm like, so what's your role in your life that you get to change? Because that's all we can change. All we can change is ourselves. When we feel like the world is falling apart, it's how we show up in life that will make us feel like, well, actually, maybe the world is falling apart, but I can be a small piece in it that's stable and that's got or gaining clarity, and that's showing up and sharing my experience through the crumbling to be a more aligned, more centered, calming human on the planet while chaos around us ensues. So this piece around self-responsibility clearly came up. Stop wallowing in self-pity, get up there, do the things that you have to do, or that you know you're called to do. So I don't have to do any of this. Do I have to do any of this? It's like, well, I suppose it depends on how you look at the word have. Because I've felt this a few times as well in the last few years, like I'm almost fighting myself to stay in this small human container and not expand out of it into some more wiser, empowered version of myself that can say, right, well, this is my story, and this is where I started, and this is how I felt like the whole world was falling apart, like I was never going to get out of the stuck state that I was in, like relationship wise, mentally, emotionally, financially, my livelihood at the time, at the business that I had at the time, like how all of it felt so like it was gonna fall apart, and how I began to look at it head on and be like, I have to take responsibility for what I can change in this, so that I don't actually fall apart and, you know, not be the mum that I want to be, potentially really hurt myself in the process, either physically or mentally, and then end up physically sick. And then what use am I to my family if I'm physically ill, not capable, or worse? Like, I'm not exaggerating when I say beginning to explore, beginning to do this inner healing saved my life. I'm not exaggerating that. That's truly what I think now, knowing where I was and knowing where I've come to, that what I did saved my life when I started to go, right, I have to change something about me, and I have to begin to know that I have to love myself first, and I have to take care and nurture myself first, because if I don't, then I'm no use to anybody, because I might not even be here. So that's the piece of the self-responsibility. Self-responsibility is not a way to beat yourself up for not being good enough. It's a way to empower yourself to step up to the next level of the life you are most like wishing to and desiring to create for yourself, and for, as a knock-on effect of that, those that you care about most, be they your own offspring, be they people that you care for, be they those that you might teach or mentor yourself, be that, you know, groups within other external organisations as well. So that's my little bit for today. That was some shamanic journey, and you know, if it is something that you would like to explore further, the processes that I have, right from Nurture Yourself, which is a 30-day self-motivated process, which I do plan on going through as a group again, maybe in the new year, maybe in 2025. There's the 6-month process that's coming up, which is why I can't run the process this year, because running the 6-month process rests Surrender Trust starting in September, and there is already content dropping in that, and that's what I feel like my shamanic journey was telling me to crack on with creating, because that the stuff that I want to create for that in the preamble, in the pre-nurturing, pre-care phase, so that there is signing up now, I've got a grounding and a basis and a foundation, but one that's there when we start. It's not necessary to have signed up and done that to start off in September. It's just a little bit of extra bonus and initiation into knowing what it's like to come and be in a container with me and begin to feel that supportive process as you move on into the next level of your life. So that's it for today. I'll put any links down there for those processes, or they're all available on my website. And yeah, I'll have to create some EFT now for my group, follow-up group sessions, and I will see you all again in another video very soon. Bye.